Thursday, February 13th, and according to some, the past 48 hours have changed the global security landscape for the worse. I'm Dr. K. I'm a political scientist, and I look at how information is shared. U.S. President Donald Trump announced on February 12th that he had begun peace negotiations with Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. He had said that he would end the war on the first day of his presidency, and on day 24 of his presidency, he really disrupted things. And it seems like Putin is getting everything that he wants. He's not even bothering to negotiate with Ukraine. The U.S. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, stated that Ukraine should not join NATO. And the U.S. has confirmed that American troops will not be involved in securing a post-war Ukraine. Hegseth also said that it's not likely that Ukraine will return to its 1991 borders, meaning that Russia would keep Crimea and all the land that it's claimed since 2014. So not only was Ukraine excluded from the negotiations, but these talks have gone ahead without anyone from the EU or NATO. And according to some, that makes both of these groups look weak and lose face. Ukraine appears to have really gotten a bad deal. Really? Let's shift the angle and look at what actually changes. There was well-organized political maneuvering by the Trump administration that created a situation that may have actually taken leverage from Russian President Vladimir Putin. Until now, Ukraine has depended on aid and support from allies. Some countries that pledge military equipment can only deliver it under really strict conditions, whether it was waiting for approval to send German-made tanks or delaying shipments until they receive replacement equipments for themselves. Domestic politics, elections, and shifting public sentiment in Europe and worldwide have created a really big gap between promised support and actual allegation. Not a good situation. This meant that Ukraine couldn't plan or depend on allies, and there's evidence of Russian hybrid warfare aimed at influencing public opinion going back years in order to influence allies and partners and their domestic voters. While Trump was negotiating with Putin, the U.S. Treasury Secretary was in Kyiv, and he was presenting President Zelensky with a $500 billion with a B draft agreement on critical minerals, or also called rare earths. And just the day before, Representative Joe Wilson, a Republican from South Carolina, proposed reauthorizing a Lend-Lease agreement to provide Ukraine with weapons. This is a program that originally goes all the way back to World War II, and it was revived in 2022, allowing Ukraine to receive weapons, but requiring payment. They never used it, but now it's back. This means Ukraine no longer needs to depend on handouts. It now has access to over $500 billion to build up its defense, and the Kremlin's manipulation in other countries through disinformation and support for pro-Russian political parties and candidates won't affect them anymore. Yes, Putin's ego was stroked. He feels like he's on equal footing with the U.S. again, and there are reports that he will be meeting Trump in Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, European leaders who will be meeting here at the Munich Security Conference have been told again and again from Trump, then Biden, and then Trump again to increase their military spending, and they were excluded from the process. EU leaders are demanding that Ukraine be included in the talks. But if they're not, and Zelensky isn't either, politically, Zelensky can't be blamed for this deal. And now he can focus on using these new resources to build strong defense lines to protect as much of Ukraine as possible. Ukrainians no longer have to live in fear of being abandoned. And Trump is doing exactly what he said he would. And maybe that's the framework we should apply to everything else that he's saying. I'm Dr. K. This week I'm at the Munich Security Conference. Let's see what everybody else is saying.